We're having such a great conversation behind the scenes, so let's plug you right into it. It is Women's History Month, March every year. So this is a month where we have International Women's Day, Mothering Sunday, and this is a month where men go like, come on, what's going on? But hey, it's a woman's world, right? But this morning we're talking about something very important, and that is developing women to build a better nation. And guess who we have on the show this morning? We have Madam Amina Oyagbola, who is the founder and chairperson of WISCAR. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show.
It's wonderful to be here with you this morning. It's such a surprise to see you.
That was an ambush. Looking all beautiful and radiant as always.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you. I know you have a special glow in March.
Yes, we do.
For obvious reasons. And I'm talking you.
Yes.
Your glow is all year, but March, the glow just comes up. And I want you to just speak to some of the issues we've talked about before we get right into the book, which is very interesting, the WISCAR mentoring book, Developing Women to Build a Better Nation. But I want you to speak to this age-long debate, because we see women like you who have risen to the pinnacle of their careers. Now you're doing great things with WISCAR, trying to raise a better generation of women. So really, are women, and I have to be very careful the way I frame this question, because when people see you, they say, well, women can do it. We have people like you doing great things. So other women do not have an excuse not to do it. But then people look at places like governance and say, we don't have enough women. So obviously something is stopping women. So how do you balance the conversation? Because obviously women can do it, looking at you, but women don't seem to be doing it, looking at those other spaces.
Well, the real question is how many women have succeeded?
Right.
How many women do we have at the very top?
So how were you able to do that?
Well, resilience, support network, mentorship, which is what this book is all about, and just trying to do our bit, not just WISCAR, but all the women's organizations, all the male allies, because it's not women who can do it alone. All the he for she's, all the fantastic husbands out there providing enablement. But the real key is, institutionalization, and also change in mindset in terms of culture. Also, I think, the enabling environment, you can't really get far in any society, in any nation, without the proper governance structure, which is really around the laws, the policies, the guidelines, which are accepted and embraced by everyone. So we have a lot of these things in place, but the issue is to what extent they are being implemented, and who is championing them, who is driving them, who is advocating for them. And as I comment on this issue, I'll just give you a simple example which everybody can relate to, which is the advisory guidance that was provided by the central bank, a few years ago, over 10 years ago. Under the leadership of the then CBN governor, His Royal Highness Lamido Sanusi. And he just, introduced this direction. It wasn't even a law, it was a guideline, an advisory guideline, which said that every financial institution should have 40% female representation. And that has had a dramatic impact.
In fact, it's paying off today, right?
It's paying off today, and today, because of that guideline, that simple guideline, which was implemented, you now have several women who are now CEOs of financial institutions, of banks, who have, catapulted, those financial institutions, who have transformed, the balance sheets of those financial institutions, and I can begin to name them. They're performing excellently. So the issue of whether women can perform is not a discussion. The issue is, what opportunity has been provided, and what enablement and what intentionality is there within institutions to ensure that that pipeline is deliberately built, and the support network that women require at critical stages in their careers, especially when they get married and start having children, which is a civic duty, which benefits all of us. It benefits society, benefits the world. What kind of support system can we put in place to ensure that women remain in the workspace and don't drop out? I wouldn't be sitting here today because I almost dropped out, which is why mentorship is so important to me.
We're going to come to, I really think, one of the chapters that has to, I think it talks about Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and the need for mentoring. And the role modeling, I think that's a term used. I was looking at the book yesterday before the show. I would like you to speak further on that, the role of mentoring, or mentoring as a fundamental part to raising more women. I constantly ask, when I say distinguished women like you come on the show, I always want you to explain to us what we can do to put women beyond the boardroom to political position, which is quite a powerful position. I can imagine a woman leading the country. I don't know what it will be, but I expect it to be perhaps a lot more better than what the men are doing. So I want you to speak to that particular part of the book and tie it to how we can replicate it in political office.
Okay, so I'll start by saying that it's very difficult for you to be what you cannot see. That's the first thing. Imagery is very powerful, more than words. So if you walk into a room, or you walk into a space, or into a meeting, and you look at the storyboard on the wall, and all you see there is men, already it affects your confidence as a woman to say, I don't see myself in that picture. And even in terms of your own aspiration and your own goal, you begin to reduce it. And that's where mentorship is important. And that's where also why WISCAR as an organization focuses on showcasing and amplifying and celebrating the few women that have been able to get to the very top. You mentioned Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who's a lady I have a lot of respect for and really admire. And she's, by the way, also a distinguished WISCAR awardee. We identified her, as an awardee because we wanted to showcase her as part of our role modeling focus. It's a key plank, a key focus area for us, role modeling, for this very reason that you've identified and articulated, so that she can inspire others. You mentioned, Kayode, in the beginning of this interview, to say, Amina, how can women believe that they can be like you? How can women believe that they can be like Okonjo-Iweala? How can women believe that they can be like Amina Mohammed, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations? It's by seeing, by touching, by hearing from them, by them articulating and telling their own stories about how they got there, where they began, the difficulties and the obstacles and the challenges that they overcame, and the support system that they got, and the mentorship that they got along the way, and also their own courage and boldness to succeed and how they got there. So yes, that's why we speak about people like that. Coming to the question around mentorship, why is mentorship important? Nobody can make it in life alone. That's just a truism. Nobody makes it in life alone. So that's why mentorship is particularly important. And I think Oprah Winfrey, and I want to quote her, she said, I think mentors are important. And I think I don't think anybody makes it in the world without some form of mentorship. Nobody makes it alone. Nobody so far has made it alone. So we need to understand that you need support. We need to understand as human beings, male and female, you need guidance. The difference between women and men, and the reason why I'm focusing on the empowerment of women particularly, is because, in our history over the years, men have, there's patriarchy and there's misogyny, and men have gotten this support, and institutionalized, the support in the systems. The previous speaker talked about the importance of changing the systems. We need to change not just the institutional systems, but also the cultural system, the cultural norms that have been ingrained, not just in men, by the way, but also in women, in the way we think and in the way we think we can aspire, and in terms of the goals that we think we can attain. So where mentorship comes in is the intentionality. There are different forms of mentorship, by the way. So everybody gets mentored in one form or the other, the informal mentorship. But WISCAR is focused on building the leadership and the capacity of women through structured mentorship and role modeling. Why structured? Again, most of us professional women that have been in the workplace, we're juggling many balls. we're juggling many balls. And that was my own personal experience. So as I'm trying to cope with work, trying to ensure I manage my family responsibilities, which are equally, if not more important, trying to ensure that I meet the demands and obligations of society, which I have to as well, and my social obligations. It's important, if people now come to me and a young lady approaches me and says, Amina, can you mentor me? You know, that's an additional burden and an additional responsibility. How can I do that effectively? I can give her a word of advice on the go, but how far will that really take her? But if you have a framework and you have a structure, like the Win with WISCAR mentoring model, which is properly tiered, and where we provide very clear guidelines, and we also build capacity for our mentors, and we have very, very clear guidelines for our mentees in terms of how the interaction should take place and how the engagement should happen, and the do's and don'ts of mentorship, which are all contained in this book. They're all contained in this book, the WISCAR mentoring book. Then you ensure that certain boundaries are set, and the engagement is a professional one that is focused and enabling the woman to advance in her career, and hopefully you are able to accelerate her advancement and thereby catapult her career. Mentoring through the WISCAR mentoring framework has been proven to be transformational, and we're very, very proud of many of members of our alumni who now are all over the society.
Beautiful. I mean, WISCAR is Women in Successful Careers. We have about a minute to wind down. It's amazing how this conversation is so interesting. But I'm interested in chapter 6 and 7, quickly. Guiding principles for mentors and guiding principles for mentees. So a lot of people have different expectations for that mentee-mentor relationship. And it's quite interesting. You put here, for the mentors, better than 1,000 days of diligent study is one day with a great mentor.
Yes.
That's on the one hand. That's why people should have mentors.
Yes.
But on the flip side, for mentees, in an uninformed situation, and this is from Dr. Lucas Shalua, the mentee thinks that the mentor has a magic wand for success.
Yes.
However, in the real world, the mentee's attitude, determination, and self-initiative play a key role in bringing positive results. So if you can do this in 30 seconds, what should the mentee expect and what should the mentor give?
Okay, so the mentor is a labor of love. She's sharing her experiences. She's sharing the path that she has trodden. She's trying to guide you and to help you to ensure that you avoid some of perhaps the mistakes that some of us had made so that you can accelerate your career. And I can give you several examples, but because of time, I can't do that. The mentee's expectation is that she would then have access to the kind of mentors and women that she ordinarily would not have access to. They have her time. They're ready to invest in her, in terms of their intellect, in terms of their network, in terms of their resources, in terms of introducing them, in terms of the connections. But beyond that, you have a safe space, a trusted individual that you can open up to and unburden yourself to say, this is the challenge that I'm facing in my organization, perhaps with my supervisor, perhaps with your peers, perhaps even with some of your subordinates. And how do you think I can resolve it? How do you think I can address it so that I can advance in my career?
So it's one reason for you to get that book. We can't have all the conversation on the show this morning, but we have to thank you so much. I know it's a big month and you have activities lined up, but thank you for what you're doing. And to all the women out there, there is a lot of support for you. We've been speaking with Amina Oyagbola, founder and chairperson, WISCAR. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me on the program. And let's all be intentional about mentorship, and let's get this book in the hands of secondary school girls, of university students, of everyone. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Well, that's where we draw the curtains on the show this morning. Thank you for being a part. I'm Kayode Okikulu.
And I'm Jeffrey Zoma. Sunrise Daily is up at the top of the hour. Bye-bye.